Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be going over a Shark Tank pitch from an e-learning company and why that company could never scale on Udemy. Alright, welcome back. So let's take a look at the stock here. Now what I find really funny about the stock is that sometimes, like when I end the recording of the video here, it goes up quite a bit and then down a bit here. So as you can see, we're still down maybe just 2%. That's really not the end of the world here. And then, we're kind of down 11% from the all-time highs. Yesterday was kind of a better day because we had kind of a sell-off on Friday, but today things look like a little bit better. And remember that Udemy would probably do well in a lockdown type situation just because people need something to do. But today I am going to talk about a Shark Tank pitch of an e-learning company and how it relates to basically everything I talk about here. Now, the company is called Sparketh, and it's a company that teaches drawing lessons to kids. Now, one thing that I've always wanted to do, and I do have some drawing tutorials on mammothinteractive.com, by the way, and we saw a really big boom in the pandemic of these kind of these extra skills that were not necessarily job ready. So like people like to draw, they like to play music, they like to write, like these kind of skills, like the creative skills, I guess, didn't really see a huge boom in the pandemic because obviously people wanted courses for them. And then you can see here that, they've got a lot of really good videos here. Now, because I do this stuff here, I've looked at some of these videos and they're actually really, really good. So all the power to this company here. And the interesting thing is that they say 6 to 18-year-olds selling to kids is actually really difficult. And for a big platform like Udemy or any of the other platforms, it becomes a lot more difficult just because there's a lot of rules selling around to kids. And I'll do a whole episode about Outschool one day, but like Outschool has a lot of major hurdles that you have to get through, and they have to do that for legal reasons. And arguably, you don't want your kids just to be learning from anybody. They have to be someone who doesn't have a criminal record and all that stuff. And basically there's rules in place to prevent this from happening. And in the place like the United States, you definitely want to make sure you cross your T's, dot your I's, and your lowercase j's, because litigation is not cheap. So again, this website is really good, and you can see, these are the founders here. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going over the entire pitch, and I'm going to be relating this to why Udemy would not be a good fit for these kind of people and how it really dampers the entire e-learning industry as a whole, and that Udemy itself is getting away from its original mission of democratizing education, okay? And so this goes into my whole thesis that what Udemy wants to do is take those 44 million users, put that in quotes, of course, and then sell a subscription to them. And people like this, and you'll see why like this particular pitch is interesting, but you'll see why these particular people and, well, the whole e-learning industry kind of loses out on it, okay? Now, just on an aside here, now I've been watching Shark Tank and Dragon's Den for a long time. In fact, I actually learn something new every time I watch the show, and I kind of find it entertaining too. I run a business, so it makes sense to see these kind of pitches here. Before Shark Tank came on, there was Dragon's Den, and some of the people that are on Shark Tank were on Dragon's Den Canada, and I actually did learn a lot from that. I do remember actually binge watching like 2 seasons, and then I actually got a lot of good advice from those seasons. Like it was time well spent, especially if you can watch it on 2 times speed or 1.5 times speed, which is exactly what I did. So without further ado, let's take a look at this here, and I'm just going to play it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about it when I see something, okay?
Hey Sharks, I'm Dwayne. And I'm Tim. We're childhood best friends and co-founders from Atlanta, Georgia, and we're seeking $100,000 for 8% in equity in our company, Sparketh. A child's mind is like a blank canvas. There's no limit to the magic they can create. They're filled with curiosity, ideas, and emotions. But with art not being a priority in schools, they really get an opportunity to explore them. And that's why we created Spark It.
Okay, so I just want to mention that here. So we've all heard of STEM. Well, some people, like even people in the STEM field, think it should be STEAM, and so that extra A is for arts. And I can tell you, after building like a ton of software and games, the creative classes that I've taken in school actually do matter quite a bit. If you make a game that looks terrible, I mean, no one's going to play it. If you have a marketing email that looks terrible, no one's going to want to buy your product. And the thing about creativity is that, like, people think it really doesn't matter, but like it matters to some degree. And if you want to be an entrepreneur or a coder, you have to at least have some kind of creative training, like just the very least. A little bit of creative training. In fact, I do know of some really high-end engineering schools around the world. They force their students to learn a classical instrument. Okay, and that's interesting. It's an engineering school, and they force their students to learn a classical instrument. I should do a whole episode on that. But anyway, let's get back to the show.
An online art education platform for kids and teens where they can learn art anywhere and everywhere. Each Spark It membership comes with access to our library of over 1,000 art video lessons taught by engaging mentors within their specialized field.
Now, I should mention here that e-learning is very much a volume business. There's a few people that can do quality over quantity, but really, if you want to make money, specifically with the subscription, which is what they're trying to do here, it is really a volume game. You get more people the more courses you have. And so the other thing I should mention is that the video qualities here are actually pretty good. There's a lot of things over everywhere where the quality isn't good. If you're going to pay for something, it might as well be pretty good. And from what I've seen on their site and this pitch, it's actually pretty good. So kudos to them.
Spark It is built from the ground up with awesome features that cater towards kids and teens, such as 5 to 10 minute bite-sized video lessons and a virtual art portfolio that they can create and share with our global community. With Spark It's creative spark, budding artists from blank sheet of paper to complete masterpiece.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow.
So the other thing that they mentioned is that they should share, and that's something like we do, and it's kind of like something that a lot of e-learning industry people do is they give practical projects. The people on Udemy, myself included, and again the top instructors really discovered this early on. It's like, look, you build something that's real world, and you can share it, and you can add it to your portfolio, etc. And I talk about this all the time in my e-learning videos. If you want to become a great coder or whatever, you build 10 really small projects, and you'll be better off than if you build one really big one. But anyway, let's get back to the pitch.
For Sharks, who wants to help make the next generation the most creative generation by investing in Spark It, our work of art?
So I've skipped it a little bit because they do this kind of little thing where they paint a little feather. I don't think it's relevant, but anyway, let's go on.
The homeschool market is really closed off and tight knit, so it's hard to get into. So we kind of infiltrated ourselves into it. We went to expos. So when we started Spark It, we started off by going to one expo. And to get into that expo, we literally had no money. We were broke college students. We started with $500. Yeah. And after we built the website, which we didn't have the best technology, so I worked at a graphic design job, and so I snuck Tim into the office after hours for days. I love it. Yeah. And we taught ourselves PHP, CSS, and HTML just enough to build.
So this is really good. Okay, so first of all, they are kind of right about the homeschool market. Like the homeschool market, it's a certain kind of client that likes learning from home. And now with the pandemic, more and more people are learning from home that wouldn't necessarily be in that kind of demographic here. But once you crack that nut of homeschool, it does become really profitable. Now, the other thing I should mention is that they taught themselves what to do and that they were broke, and that kind of sounds like me. I was on my last $1,000 before I took off on Udemy, and it was like, wow, I can't believe it. So, very similar story with me and them here, and I'm very glad that they learned how to do this. But anyway, let's continue.
about the MVP.
Yeah.
I taught the courses, he filmed and edited them.
That's my passion, film and video. So he's the artist here. He can
So where'd you guys go to college? Kennesaw State University?
in Atlanta, Georgia.
Georgia.
But we ended up dropping out when the business was, as it started growing.
So how good is the business if it's enough for you to drop out?
For me, I think that personally, I just love entrepreneurship. And I realized that that was my passion early on. And then also, I was born with sickle cell disease, so that's been like super tough on me. Sickle cell disease is a blood disorder. And so the average lifespan of someone with sickle cell is 30 years old. And that's when it really clicked in my mind that I was like, I don't really have time to take the traditional path or anything. I have to go for what I want, what I'm passionate about, and that's entrepreneurship. I truly feel like I'm very gifted in it. And even if I wasn't making a single dollar or I was a billionaire tomorrow, like some of you guys, I would be getting up every day and doing entrepreneurship.
So I should mention that's really unfortunate for that person to have sickle cell. But you can see here that he has that entrepreneurial spirit, and I have that. A lot of other people have that. And, the thing that's lacking from Udemy specifically are people with that. They really just want to hire instructors to just make courses. And I'm going to explain why that's such a huge problem and why, again, it brings the whole e-learning industry down. And it arguably goes against, what they originally started to do. Now, of course, I get that companies change over time. But anyway, I'm going to continue this and I'm going to kind of give my thoughts on it.
How old are you now?
I'm 25 years old now.
Wow,
yes.
you look like a baby.
How did you guys meet? What's your story? Man, so we actually met as kids growing up through a mutual friend and through magic tricks, actually.
Yeah, we love magic.
Yeah, do you guys actually want to see one real quick?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. So, we did go through a lot of dark times in life, but, this is a very bright situation. Oh, nice. There you go.
It was black before, right?
Yeah, it was black before.
Good one.
Yeah.
All right. What are you doing in revenue?
So last year we did 300K in revenue.
All direct to consumer.
All
And
all
it's
B2C.
all online art classes.
Yeah, it's a subscription model.
Yeah, so like $300,000 in subscription revenue is actually really good. It's really hard to sell subscriptions, and for them to sell subscription to that kids, it's actually quite impressive. Now, the other thing that I guess I should take an aside here is that I haven't really seen too many e-learning companies on Shark Tank, but the fact that this is here means that the industry will be growing, and with this kind of investment here, the other thing is because it's getting investment, it means a lot of issues going for Udemy, and again, you'll see why in just a minute.
Business. So a parent will sign up and pay $25 a month, and then they get 2 student accounts.
So you have to acquire that customer,
Exactly.
then you've got to keep them there. What does it cost to acquire a customer, and how many actually stick with you past 12 months?
Yeah, so right now no one's sticking with us past 12 months.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop it. So first of all, $25 is a lot here. It's been a while since I've been on Skillshare, but like Skillshare charges quite a bit less, but they're a little bit more broad. So what I see a lot of really kind of niche schools. They can sell anything from $19.99 all the way up to literally $49.99 a month. And if they're niche, then it's good. And of course, all those technical course, technical IT ones, they can charge more than that, because obviously if you pay, I don't know, $79 a month and it takes 4 months, well, you're going to get a really good job at the end of it, right? If it's good here. So that's really not that big of a problem here. So again, what this does is that if you were to take your kid to an art class, this kind of supplements that, right? It's that kind of service that they are providing, but it's online here. And the other thing that I should really mention, which I really like what they say, is most people don't go on year for year. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people that sign up to my subscription keep going, and the reason is not only just supporting this channel, but they're supporting my company as well. And so I have a few people that go year over year over year, but one day they just decide to cancel, right? Because they don't necessarily need it anymore, and that's just kind of the thing, right, with subscriptions. And that's why I really don't think the personal subscription model is good for Udemy, because of what they just said. A lot of people just sign up for a bit and then they just stop, right? It's better to sell a lifetime course and have people buy that. And then for the real big fans, they subscribe here. And I really think it would be a better model for Udemy is if they had personal subscriptions for each individual instructor. That way they could prioritize not only like support and other services with their course, but they could produce more courses, which is really the name of the game, because e-learning is a volume business, despite what a lot of people will say. Let's continue.
It's about more around like $160 is the lifetime customer value, which is about like 6 to 7 months is around the time that people are staying, and $51.50 to acquire a customer.
Whoa.
Hey, Dwayne, you mentioned you made $300,000 last year. Was that your first year in business?
No, it wasn't our first year in business. We actually started in 2015.
And
We're
what
not
were the sales,
profitable though.
say last year, or the last 2 years? How did they compare?
Last year we did 300K. The year before that was 75K, and then the year before that was 110K. So something did happen in there. What happened is 2018, we pushed ourselves so hard traveling nonstop. We were going to homeschool expos. We started with 1, then the next year we did 3, then we did 11, then we did 22. And the sickle cell and just not getting a break every weekend selling and being on my feet, I ended up like putting myself in the hospital. And Dwayne also ended up putting himself in the hospital.
Yeah,
we were
we were
both
both in the
hospitalized
hospital.
at the same time.
Okay, so I should mention that it is running an e-learning business is a lot of work, and this is why I constantly say that it's very easy to get burnt out. These people got put in the hospital. Now, there's been times where I have felt kind of sick to my stomach through stress with the business, and you know, a lot of that it's been quite rough, and like sometimes, you know, it's been a direct result of Udemy itself changing their policies, which I'm going to do a whole episode about that, by the way. But like, even if I'm not on Udemy doing work here, it is a lot of work. And as you can see, it put 2 people in the hospital, one with an underlying condition, another person that's perfectly healthy, and he looks fairly fit too. And you know, I mean, I'm fairly fit as well. You know, I play ultimate frisbee, you know, I bike to work, etc. And like at some times, it just, you know, there's been some times where I have been like, you know, extremely stressed out, and I'm a person that can take a lot of stress. Like entrepreneurs can take way more stress than the average person. And, you know, even it floored me. And I know that other people that if they'd gone through what I've gone through would absolutely quit. And same with these people. So like they probably pushed themselves a little bit harder than I, because I never ended up in the hospital as a result of all this here. But anyway, I just want to note that like this is like I say the things on this channel, but here's another person saying the exact same thing.
The launch of the website. So we
You
went
guys
through
would do anything for a vacation.
What's the 100K for? How are you going to use it?
So the 100K is for content and to build out a better version of the platform.
Another quick question. So how much are you burning per month?
Okay, so that's another thing. Content can be really expensive to produce here. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they kind of make the course themselves and then they sell it. And when I talk about a lot of the instructors, there's very few teams that have like, you know, like people that like instruct other people, marketing, etc. Now, of course, we do that at our company, right? Like I am the creative director, or you know, the director of everything here. You know, I stopped making courses probably about a year ago, and believe it or not, it's a better job, because before what I used to do is I used to run all the business, do all the marketing, taxes, all that kind of stuff, and then I stopped doing that. And what happened after that was, even though I stopped doing it, you know, people could specialize, and now we hire people to do that, and we're doing a really good job at that. And so content is quite important. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? You know, a movie, like a director isn't necessarily acting in a movie. And I know it's a little bit different of an industry, but when you think about it, the movie industry is set up with directors and executive directors and marketing people, and then you have the actors themselves. And the specialization of talent really makes the movie industry churn out great content after great content after great content. And, you know, arguably some people might say movies weren't as good as they used to be. You know, if you look at what Hollywood's producing today, like a lot of the stuff is more or less better than what we had in the past. Although the content of like the scripts might not be as good. I mean, sometimes I'll watch an old movie like, wow, the script was a little bit better. But you know, that might be like a really good movie compared to what is the average movie today. So like, Hollywood and like a TV show, like I should do a whole episode on how a TV show makes a whole from start to finish and how people in the e-learning industry do it. And at some point in time, that's going to collide. And you can see here that by building content and building a better platform here. Now, the other thing about building a platform is like you could just use Thinkific or Teachable, which is what I do because because for the most part, it doesn't necessarily matter as much. However, if you're going to go on Shark Tank, you might have to build your own platform, which is incredibly expensive. Video hosting is really expensive, and video hosting is quite expensive, and just like maintaining the software on your site is extremely expensive. Let's continue.
Break even. So we just
So you're not making money, but you're not really losing money.
Exactly. We could be profitable if we wanted to.
So that's another thing, is that a lot of the companies that I know, they barely just break even here, right? It's like they might have some money at the end of the day here, but at the end of the day, a lot of these e-learning companies either lose money or are just barely profitable here. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be like this. And even if you looked at the SEC forms of Udemy, you'll notice that they lost quite a bit of money. And arguably that might be by design, but whatever. Let's continue.
We just are spending, so we haven't tried to be profitable.
Is this a business or is this a hobby?
Okay, so I want to talk about that here because you know what? A lot of the people that are on Udemy are just hobbyists. Like they throw up a course, they get some extra money. I don't know, it pays a bit of their rent or whatever, their mortgage or whatever. And that's just what it is, right? And there are few people, there are people like me, for example, that do this full time and have been doing it full time for a while, but there's not enough people and there's not enough kind of medium-sized businesses doing this. And I think that's a huge problem. And it's directly related to the fact that Udemy is not scalable. And again, I'm going to be going over that in a minute here.
This is a business.
Why? It makes no money.
We haven't tried to be profitable.
You haven't even told us what you're tracking so far for 2021.
Yeah, 2021, we're on track to do 500K this year.
Okay, so 500K, that's quite a bit of money. Now, of course, they have a bunch of extra things to do with terms of cost here. But remember when I went to Teaching Guide, the top drawing instructor is probably not even grossing 500K. So if for them to do 500K outside of Udemy is really good. And that's another thing, right? Udemy should really want to take these guys in and make them millionaires, right? They have a really good story. One person, has an underlying condition and is driven for success. And they're not really driven to make a bunch of money, move it to the Cayman Islands, buy a bunch of yachts. Like that's not what they're trying to do here. They really want to provide a service. And like a lot of small businesses, they love to provide a service, just like me, right? Like the first thing I do when I wake up, is I check, my sales, right? And my sales are really an indicator of how well I'm providing a service. Because really that's what a business is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to just provide services. And, for them to do 500K this year that they're tracking to do is pretty good.
Listen, for me, I love creativity. I love opening up kids' minds to be inventive and to create. But for me, I'm not really the app person. So for that reason, I'm going to go out.
Okay, thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you so much. You guys, I look at it and say, how as an investor, because I like what you're doing and I think there's merit in it, $100,000 for 8% impute, so $1.25 million valuation for a business that is, let's call it what it is, it breaks even, right? I give you $100,000. How would I get that back?
Listen, Kevin, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to be honest. This is more than just getting a quick buck back. This is more about a true vision. We want to impact the world.
Okay, there's a couple things. So first of all, if you don't know, Kevin O'Leary had a company, and his big claim to fame is that he sold an education company. And so if you remember games like Oregon Trail, you know, he was the guy behind that, right? Carmen Sandiego. And so he actually knows quite a bit about this here. And the other thing is that if you look at this is like a real world investor saying, okay, if you're going to do 500,000, it's not worth 1.25 million. So, you know, Udemy's like they're trying to push things to a subscription. They made 420 million and they're worth $4 billion. Now, of course, I'm not going to say, you know, what the real evaluation is, but what I am going to talk about mostly is that like this is a really good example of how a real world investor kind of values an e-learning company, and this is really kind of like a showy kind of, you know, Hollywood type glimpse into how this works. And if it's all subscription, you know, you can get like 5 times revenue. So maybe someone might buy their company for $2.5 million or something like that, if they were to get to the 500K. Or you know, anywhere between 1 to 2 million, they might purchase the company because subscription revenue is better. But anyway, let's continue.
I should set aside my traditional demands for returns of money and get something else in
And
return.
use it to impact, change the world.
I can't invest in this, I'm out.
Okay, so the other thing is that you see how they have a real big vision. The e-learning industry is lacking that person. They're lacking an Elon Musk with that kind of vision. You know, and I see this all the time. It's like these people would not be good on Udemy, right? These entrepreneurs, they have a vision, and that vision needs to be, well, they want to grow their vision. And, you know, it's just a complete odds as to what Udemy's doing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I understand.
Guys, look, I see where you're going with this. The real challenge I see in this as a business, you don't have that one thing to hang your hat on. You need something that says, this is why we are different. This is what makes us unique. Why am I going to do this instead of just watching free YouTube videos? You don't have that one marketing thing for you guys that's an accelerant, and that's unfortunate. So for those reasons, I'm out.
You guys are so charismatic and
Oh, I should also mention that there's spoilers ahead.
endearing. You know, I listen to you and I'm looking for a reason to invest. And you keep using the same phrase, if we wanted to make money, we could.
We can.
But you really have to convince an investor how to make money. But, because I really love you, I'm going to make you an offer.
Oh.
I'm going to offer you $100,000 for 20% of your business.
Ouch.
But it's contingent on you proving to me after 6 months that you've been able to make a profit.
Okay, so again, you know, Shark Tank, they're kind of more real world investors. They're not necessarily the kind of VCs that you would get for a tech company. But nevertheless, you know, they really like their entrepreneurial spirit. They really like them. Right? And they have to convince investors to make money, right? But like, I mean, it's not just Udemy stock in particular. It's like, you know, Duolingo lost money. You know, all of these e-learning companies kind of just like lose money, but they manage to convince investors that things are good here. So, you know, the thing is that I find this really interesting, just because, you know, they got an offer, okay?
3 sharks are out. Tim and Dwayne are seeking $100,000 for 8% of their online art education company, Sparketh. Barbara has made an offer, but needs some reassurance that they are focused on making a profit.
We can.
I'm going to offer you $100,000 for 20% of your business.
Ouch.
But it's contingent on you proving to me after 6 months that you've been able to make a profit. If you don't make the profit, you don't get the money. If you make the profit, you get the $100,000.
Guys, I'm struggling enormously because I can tell that you're actually holding it inside. And I can tell that the struggles are probably even greater. Yeah, they are. Knowing the sickle cell disease.
So the struggles are even greater. That's an understatement. There is so much junk that you have to deal with in the e-learning industry. And for the most part, you know, I know it more than anybody else. It's easy to get burnt out. And, you know, this is coming to a really good conclusion. But anyway, let's take a look.
That you have, and standing up and continuing to work and not give up on your dream. I'm getting chills just thinking about your journey. And at the same time, you're treating this as a charity rather than with the seriousness and respect of an entrepreneurial vision.
Well said.
So I would like to partner with Barbara if she's up to it, and I'd like to mentor you together with her, but give you the 6 months to turn into a business,
Do you like me as your partner? Or
It depends, Daniel. I mean, it's only 20%. For 10% equity, you're willing to jump in here?
For these guys, yes.
Okay.
I respect that. I think that's a great idea. Well said. I think that's a great idea. You guys partner up together and we'll show you. I truly believe that we can accomplish anything we put our minds to together as a team. And you can what we have.
And you're willing to take a contingency deal?
As an entrepreneur, there's no better deal we could have gotten here than a contingency deal.
So then I would say yes. You had the offer on the table.
Okay, all right, we'll take it. We'll take it. We got it.
Okay, so there we go. They got an offer and on a contingency deal, and I cannot be rooting for this company more than more. You know, I definitely want to do that, or definitely want these guys to succeed. Absolutely, 100%. So let's take a look here. So let's take a look, and let's talk about why these people would never ever even consider going on Udemy. So first of all, I don't think I could walk into the Shark Tank and say, hey, I want to make Udemy courses and get an investment. That's a huge problem, right? I can do that with, well, practically kind of any other company, right? You know, I can walk into VC firms for like games or apps or a product on Amazon, and I can say, hey, look, here's our product. Here's how we do a really good job at it, and I would like some investment to take this to the next level. But Udemy doesn't want to do that. Udemy wants to sell subscriptions. Now, I should mention that this is kind of a case study as to how the e-learning industry works from a entrepreneurial level. And one thing so let's recap here. One, it's really hard to sell subscriptions. It's great when you do, but it's really, really hard, right? Two, it's really, really demanding on the entrepreneurship. And three, if you have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, you're not going to put it in a place where you're kind of getting diminishing returns. And so Udemy, and so this is what I really say, when Udemy's marketplace should be scalable, they should really attract these kind of people. And I did a whole episode on the algorithm of Udemy and how it should be fixed. I'll probably do another episode on it that's a little bit more clear, but nevertheless, you can check that video out. I'm always going to make multiple videos on some of the same topics, but with more information as time goes on. And the thing is that, you know, if these guys were to put things up on Udemy, there's no way they would ever get to that 500,000 deals, and there's absolutely no way they would get investment from a person on Shark Tank or literally anybody else, and that's a huge problem. Because Udemy, what they're doing is they're catering to instructors and not necessarily entrepreneurs, right? They're basically giving some people a golden ticket. It's kind of like being an employee or like a freelance consultant. That's what the top instructors on Udemy are like, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that the whole e-learning industry needs more of these people, right? You know, I'm like this. These people, you know, these guys are like this too. I'm super impressed that they did this. Their site is really good. And again, Udemy itself would never, ever do any of these guys justice in terms of their vision, in terms of their product, and in terms of the money, which is, you know, all three of those things are really important here. And that's really my kind of core argument against what they're doing here. And as we know, and from this actual video here, is that it's really hard to sell subscriptions. So getting 44 million people to subscribe, it's going to be very short-lived, right? You know, some people might stay longer here. The other thing that you can do is, I'm not sure, no, the only thing I guess here is there a pricing here? Okay, they do. Okay, so they do have a pricing here. It's not on their front page, which is kind of interesting, but that, again, let's do this here. So we have, you know, $25 a month or $250 a year. So, you know, $250 divided by 12 is $20.83. Okay, and they might have to pay tax. Like the end user might have to pay tax on that, depending on where they live here, right? And so you can see here that there's a few other items here. They should probably add in a few more for this here. And then what would be better is if they had like a premium one that's like $350 a year that has a little bit more stuff. But nevertheless, it's, you know, really good stuff. I'm really excited. I can't tell you how exciting it is for me for someone to walk into the Shark Tank get a deal that kind of does what I do and does what we do, right? It means that, because I have done that before and I have been laughed out of the room. So this is a huge step. Now, of course, I did that years ago before the pandemic in kind of a 2018, which was not really a good time to do it. It was kind of like a mini recession, I guess, when the Fed started to taper, but that's a different story here. But anyway, so Udemy itself, again, if the biggest differentiating factor that makes Udemy what it is today and how it started out is Udemy started with a marketplace, and they did a really good job. In fact, I'm going to be doing another video very soon where I go back to the Wayback Machine and show how they set up their page. And they actually did a better job years ago than they are doing today, right? So all the things that they're doing here kind of limit arguably the best parts about, about doing this here. The entrepreneurial spirit, the making lots of money, like those things are really good about this industry, but it's a lot of work. And that's why I don't think an exit would be good for Udemy, because the top instructors, like, eventually they'll just say no, right? And I know that they can just go hire another consultant, which we might as well call the top instructors on Udemy consultants, because essentially that's what they're doing. They're getting fed up they're getting put up in the algorithm automatically because they're basically chosen, and then they're getting put into UFB, which helps everything there. And so you can make more money than what you would normally do in industry if you're one of the top instructors. But that's not the same kind of person who does this, right? That gets up every day, that tries to innovate. And that's another thing, there's a very big lack of innovation in the e-learning industry. It really, I say this again, for the last about 4 or 5 years, the top courses on Udemy haven't really changed in quality. Now, these are actually pretty good in quality. And again, there is literally no reason to put these courses up on Udemy other than to get leads back to your own site. But Udemy really heavily doesn't like that, right? But that's up to them, okay? So nevertheless, this is a really good kind of masterclass and kind of a glimpse into, how hard it is to do this. When you take a course, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I can tell you, from another person on the ground level, that this is a big, big thing, right? And again, great. I'm so excited for these entrepreneurs here that they got a tank here. They got a deal on the Shark Tank. I couldn't be more thrilled. I was watching this episode with my wife last night, and I said, I think this is the first e-learning person on Shark Tank, which is great. Because a few years ago, they would absolutely say no. Even though they said they started their business in 2015, like if they had come on earlier, they probably wouldn't have gotten a deal. The fact that they got a deal means that there's a ton of upside to the industry. It gets me fired up, as you can tell, and I'm extremely excited here, right? So that concludes this video. I want to know your thoughts. Is it good that Udemy doesn't like these kind of entrepreneurs where they basically stunt their growth? Or is it better to just sell a subscription, right? On that note, if you really like this channel, you can subscribe to my content on Mammoth Interactive. Our goal is to get to 10,000 paid subscribers, and currently we release 26 hours of fresh new content per month. With your help to get to 10,000 paid subscribers, we can release 200 to 300 hours of content per month because we're just so good at creating content, all right? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.